Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Gears and Glory. We took last week off because it was the Super Bowl and I was watching Bad Bunny perform. And so was Liv and probably so many other people. But yes, we took last week off. This week we have sessions to recap. We have testing, Bahrain testing round 1. There's another round next week. So we'll have more to debrief and a couple of other pieces of information I'm sure we'll get out of there, some news, etc. But for now, I'm gonna recap our Bahrain testing round 1, basically, and kind of go through what we saw. So just gonna get right into it. I mean, it's testing, so like our team's sandbagging, our team's struggling. Like it's always really tough to say like what's real and what's not. I remember last testing, everyone was like, Williams is like a rocket ship. And like they were good. They were the best of the rest, like outside of the top 4, absolutely. But I think there was like I definitely maybe got a little overexcited about the performance that we saw in testing versus what actually happened in the season. Though it wasn't bad. We still put I mean like Carlos got a podium, whatever. So grain of salt with all of the results from the past 3 days. It was interesting. So with the way that testing is set up, you have a driver in the morning, a driver in the afternoon, and you can only have one car out on the track at any given moment, which is just such an interesting setup. Given the way that literally every other session is run that's not testing. But there were a pretty good amount of drivers not able to drive in a day. So like every day there were about 4 to 6. One day there was like a 7-ish. I'll put an asterisk on that and I'll get to that. But it was so interesting to have felt like many drivers skip out, but it is testing. So like all the changes that are happening have to get worked out. And then by the time that gets done, either it's too late for the first driver to start or they identified the issue with the first driver and the second session's over. So I just thought that was really interesting. F1 was posting some really informative posts about this. So they had like the recap because the F1 site doesn't actually have the times or the recaps. They have like the report and the lap by lap. But I don't think they actually have like the grid the way that they do with like every other official session that is like competition. So like practice 1 through 3, quali, the race, etc. So they posted everything on Instagram though, which was super helpful. So there were a couple of, I'll do this for each of the 3 days. I want to call out like which drivers were surprisingly in like a flipped order from what I would expect. And then they also had graphics. The F1 Instagram had graphics of like, I believe, the most laps, the fastest speed, and the fastest lap. So like at the speed trap, who had like the highest kph or whatever. So day 1, Nico is quicker than Gabby, which is interesting because, well, I mean, it's not necessarily interesting, but it's just like, what's interesting is being able to get a gauge of the Audi power unit, because Audi is powered by themselves, and it's not different. It's not like it's so different, but it isn't, because it's like still steak, but it's not anymore, especially with the power unit change. So that'll just be something to keep an eye out on. Max got the most laps, so Red Bull had a lot of data collected. Hannah Schmitz will surely do a lot with that. And then Lando had the fastest lap day 1. On the first day, those not running were Isaac Hadjar, Fernando Alonso, Liam Lawson, and Ollie Behrman. I believe day 1, Esteban was also pretty far up there in the order. Let me fact check that really quick. Let me speed run. Yeah, Esteban Ocon was 4th quickest in the Haas day 1. So interesting there. Day 2, Audi swapped. So Gabby was then faster than Nico on day 2. Valtteri was quicker than Checo, which I also think is interesting because as it stands right now, Cadillac seems to be kind of mingling in and around where maybe Stake was, where maybe Haas has been. So like more of a midfield team really. And like that makes sense as their first real sessions and like their first season in the sport, kind of getting their feet under them. But Valtteri went quicker than Checo by about 2 seconds, which felt like a pretty big discrepancy. A lot of times when like a driver was going quicker than their teammate, it was because their teammate didn't run or something, or they were a little bit closer, or it was like Pierre doing way better than Franco Colapinto, which like that's just a fact of the matter there. But let's see. Those are the two callouts I wanted to make. Lando got the most laps on day 2. George had the top speed, which is interesting, and I want to talk about the Mercedes power unit after I'm done recapping these stats by day. And Charles had the fastest lap on day 2. So there's hope. Do I ask the Pope specifically? Like, who do I have to talk to about that? But yeah, and then this was the day that there were a lot of other drivers not running. So there were 6, 7 with the asterisk, not running. So Kimi only had 3 laps because I believe there were power unit issues that delayed his time to get into the car. He got into the car, did 3 laps, and then it was time to switch because they swapped the car at midday. So apparently it was a power unit issue in the morning, and then George got in the afternoon, and then Max Verstappen, Lance Stroll, Esteban Ocon, Franco Colapinto, Lewis Hamilton, and Oscar Piastri all did not run day 2. So it seems like the teams are also ironing a lot of things out, which is good. Iron them out now for sure, instead of in practice during like Melbourne or whatever, or like during a race. Like that's the last place you want to be figuring out issues. But still unfortunate that they're not getting the run time either. It's like, as long as winter break has felt, it's also putting it into perspective for all of the engineers and like those developing the car, probably not been a lot of time at all. And let's see. And then day 3, Kimi was quicker than George. Kimi had the fastest time overall. Isaac was right behind Max, so he was only 0.3 slower than Max when their times were compared to the leader. 0.3 and some change. I did mental math, so whatever. I wasn't gonna figure out more than 0.3 of a difference. So they were very, very close together, which is a really good sign. It would be interesting, maybe I should follow up on that, but like it would be interesting to see where Yuki was stacking up. Gosh, where Liam was stacking up to Max at this point last season. Woof. So that'll just be interesting. I have a lot of faith in Isaac doing well. I think he has the ability, the like dogged ability. Like I'm trying to figure out like a really nice way to say like he's got that dog in him. Not that that's not nice, but like I wanted to find a different way to say that. But I do think he's got that dog. I think he can do it. I don't know. I mean, do it as in survive Max Verstappen perhaps, which is, I mean, we'll have to see. Both Haas's were ahead of Audi, Williams, VCarb, and Cadillac. So Audi and Cadillac are not super surprising to me that Haas was ahead of, but I was a little surprised to see that both Haas cars were ahead of both Williams and both VCarbs, because like Haas had some success, but I guess in my head I feel like Williams and VCarb are better teams than Haas. So that was just an interesting call out for me. And it was nice that both cars got to run on day 3. So by the end of all 3 days of testing, the quickest lap on day 3, which I'm just going to assume is the fastest lap overall, I'll have to do another spreadsheet for it. Just kidding. I already started it. Just kidding. It's already in the works. The fastest laps were pushing 133.6. So to put that into perspective, the quali lap for P1 from Bahrain in 2025 was around 1 minute 30-ish. It was like a 1:29, and then like everybody else was 1:30, like in the top 10 at least, from Q3. The practice 3 FP3 fastest lap was a 1:31. So again, our laps from Bahrain testing are pushing 1:33.6. But during the actual Bahrain race from 2025, the fastest lap during the Grand Prix itself was a 1:35.140. So I just like the FIA said, and I was like, okay, kind of grain of salt, kind of probably true. I don't really know how I felt. I think I'm surprised by how quickly it's actually happening, of like the cars are catching up. Like feels like they changed quite a bit, especially in terms of like the process of driving. So like straight mode and corner mode and stuff like that feels pretty drastic, with like DRS going away and like fundamental things and pieces of understanding of like how to drive the car. And yet the times are, I mean, they feel pretty comparable to me. But again, damn it, I should have done that research, is look at testing from last year. But I don't know. It seems like we're in the ballpark already, which feels pretty quick to be in the ballpark. So I don't know. The all the testing sessions are giving us a lot of information about like the car itself, but like I also feel like I got a lot in terms of like learning about the regulations themselves. So like they have like the track map, right? Where they have like the DRS detection point and then like the DRS zone. So there's a couple of really interesting things that I picked up from the track maps. And if you know better than me, please correct me and let me know so that we can be accurate. Me, myself, and I, and Liv and Britt, who are not on today. Miss you. But it's interesting on the track map. They have the straight mode zones, and that's any straight long enough really to make sense. So like in Bahrain, it's like the bottom part and then the two sides and then the bit in the middle. If you're visualizing that one for me right now, but you could also look at a picture. You could also go to the F1 site and see exactly what I'm talking about. So it seems like whenever they're not in straight mode, they will be in corner mode, but also it is kind of like if you're not on a straight, you're in a corner, so you're going to be in corner mode and want to be in corner mode, especially if it's like a bunch of like switchbacks, like left, right, just not straight. Like I don't really know how else to describe that. Like you're in straight mode when it's straight, and then you're in corner mode when you're in corners, from corner to corner, turn to turn, curve to curve, whatever. So like it makes sense, but like I think that makes it so that like the straight mode is the determined area, and otherwise you'll like be in corner mode. So that was interesting to learn. I wish somebody would like spell it out to me like I'm like dumb, which I'm not. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. The other piece that I thought was interesting was they have so we have overtake mode, right? Which like is the battery powered, that's going to give you the push. Instead of it being an aerodynamic, DRS, drag reduction, boost, it's going to be an energy boost. So it's going to be less about getting the aerodynamic and instead using and conserving power to give yourself a boost to overtake. So the overtake detection point and the overtake mode detection point and the overtake activation point are not the same. So there's like a tiny gap between them, which I find fascinating, because does that mean if you are within the 1 second, the way it's going to work the same as DRS. So like if you're within the 1 second to activate overtake mode at the first point by a hair, and then when you get to the activation point, the car ahead is technically 1 second or more, then like you're still technically allowed to engage overtake mode because of where the activation point was. I just think it's interesting that they're not one and the same, that like the detection and the activation points are not the same. Now I can't remember if DRS was that way, but I feel like it was. I don't really know. So I thought that was really interesting, and it feels like a little bit of a gap. Something else that we talked about in our regulations episode was the new safety lights, which we did see in action. There was a point where one of the Ferraris spun out, and they now have on the rear view, like the side rear view mirrors, they have flashing lights on the sides there. So the lights were previously largely on the back, which makes sense. You're typically following another car, but then if that car spins out in poor conditions, or like basically I'm thinking Silverstone 2025 and it was so rainy, like you could barely even see the flashing lights on the back of the car. Like at least it'll help to have the flashing lights on the side of the car. If that car spins out, if there's any sort of visibility issue, there's at least flashing lights to show you where the car is if you need to avoid a collision or avoid like debris or basically just like a spun out crashed vehicle while you're racing. So that was neat to see in person. That felt pretty important. The other big thing I wanted to talk about that I mentioned earlier was Kimi was having problems with the Mercedes power unit, but Mercedes is powering like a majority of the grid, that has the biggest chunk of teams that it is providing its power unit to. So Mercedes is obviously providing power units to itself, but it's also providing power units to McLaren, Alpine no longer making their own because it had been Renault now. what Renault Alpine, and then had been their own engine provider, now are using a Mercedes engine. So hopeful for Liv. Um, and Williams all have the Mercedes power unit. And Mercedes has had a lot of chatter of like, it's been conversations like, oh, Mercedes and Red Bull like have a secret. Like they like have a loophole and their power unit is better than everyone else's. And they're gonna be the fastest. So like we'll have to see how that actually shakes out, because I feel like Red Bull with the Ford power unit has been up there. Ferrari with their own power unit has been up there, and like the top four feel somewhat unchanged. um Maybe the ordering within that do, but it's also like it's also testing like, what are we like, we can't really take much, but like we can and we will, but like we shouldn't, but I'm still gonna. So Mercedes is powering a lot, so these teams, I mean, will hopefully be pretty competitive, within the ability to get the rest of the car right, and putting all of the pieces together basically to find success and to find the wins. So they're powering the most. So that's what Mercedes, McLaren, Alpine, and Williams. So that's four. Ferrari is powering obviously themselves, Cadillac and Haas. So that's three. Ford is in the Red Bull and the V Carb. Aston has Honda, and Audi is again doing its own engine. So that will be interesting too. They were a little bit where Stake has been as Audi. So like unfortunate. I love an Audi. I think they're beautiful cars. Just like road cars. But I mean, I don't know if I would love to see them do well. I'd love to see all the team. I just want everyone to have fun. Whatever. I want Ferrari to win and then everyone else can have fun. But it'll be interesting to see the power unit and just like the builds that they have this season with the new regulations and how all of that's going to look in the standings, basically. So yeah, that's kind of a quick recap of Bahrain testing. Not a ton. I mean, it's testing, so like we can take as much as we can. Grain of salt. We'll have more testing next week to recap, as well. But I wanted to share some other news, some other F1 news. So obviously last weekend was the Super Bowl. Well, not obviously, who cares? Whatever. Last weekend was the Super Bowl. The Seahawks won. All my friends were very happy. As so long as the Patriots didn't win, that was going to be fine. Sorry to my friends from the Northeast, but also not sorry, you're a Patriots fan. So the Seahawks won, whatever. More importantly, Bad Bunny was doing the halftime show, which I thought was amazing. Loved the little reference to the kids sleeping at the wedding. Also, it was a real wedding and a real engagement. Love that. All of the vendors were like real vendors and like salespeople of whatever they were doing. So like whether it be food, whether it be jewelry, whether it be whatever. Like they were all like, it was all very real. Like obviously the performers were performing and like it was a performance, but like there were so many aspects that tied real life in and gave people wonderful opportunities. I thought it was amazing. I loved the music. And after it was over, I was like, wow, that was so good. Like really loved the messages he was sharing, and everyone around me didn't speak Spanish. And they were like, you didn't translate a single thing for us. And I was like, oh, well, like learn Spanish then. Like I don't really know what to tell you. So it was, no, I thought it was wonderful. I think he did a great job and it was very neat. So that was great. I'm still coping poorly with the fact that it seems that Lewis Hamilton and Kim Kardashian really are dating. I like don't really know what to do with that. And it like, I work in like activewear, so like Skims has like a hand in activewear, and then like I know Lewis Hamilton has like a Lululemon partnership, and so it's just like it comes up at work, and I'm like, I don't know how to process this in my personal life. I don't want to have a professional opinion about it either. So it just like I just like don't really know what to do with that. I really don't. But I guess it's just like happening. I saw someone post a video of like the Kardashians and Jenners like goofing off, and you could like hear Lewis's voice in the background. I'm like, that's crazy. But then it's like, what are they gonna film Keeping Up with the Kardashians like in the Ferrari garage, like in Maranello? Like I could see, oh my God, I could absolutely see them like doing something like that and accidentally leaking like Ferrari behind the scenes stuff on freaking Bravo or whatever network it is. I'm a Bravo gal. I don't actually watch the Kardashians. I've been watching Summer House. That's a whole thing. But I don't know what to do with that information, really. It's been, I mean, whatever. He can date who he wants. It just doesn't make sense to me in my head. So that's kind of official now. Kimmy Antonelli did the most 19-year-old thing he could do. He crashed his 1 in 200, I think it is. There's like only 200 others of this Mercedes that he was like given. Basically immediately crashed it. Like the kid just got his driver's license. He got his freaking super license first, and then he gets his driver's license. And then he gets his nice, awesome, rare car, crashes it. I like he should be careful driving. Like I know he's like been in interviews saying like going 30 kph is like boring. I get it. That's the speed limit though. I still think it's the most 19-year-old thing he could possibly do. Like what 19-year-old do you not know that's like even accidentally rear-ended someone? Not me. I'm a great driver. If a little slow. I almost didn't pass my driving test because they were like, you need to be like going the speed limit, and I'd be going like 5 miles per hour under, and I was like, but I'm scared. This is a machine. So we've grown. I drive quicker now. But yeah, I just think it's funny that like that's what he's doing on his winter break. He's like getting in a car accident. Like that is so comical. It's just like so comical to me. Let's see. The other piece of news I wanted to talk about was Peyton Westcott is the F1 Academy driver for Mercedes, which was a spot vacated by Dorian Pant, the previous champion. So the F1 Academy did also release in their rules that I think this season going forward, and I'm not really sure how the rules are going to apply retroactively to drivers, that like they will now allow drivers to be in for a maximum of 3 seasons. So like, I don't know, Alba Larson could be in for another season, I think. This wouldn't have to be her last season because this is her second. So I don't really know how it'll apply to like the cohort of like obviously Leah Block is like going to do her own thing in rally, which I love. Maya Vug, like this was her second season. Abby Pulling, Abby, I call her by her first name as if we're personal friends. Abby Pulling is doing, she also has really cool merch. She's doing GB3. So there's like a bunch of the F1 Academy drivers that have like sought their own situation after, which is like the point. And it's hard to tell how much time is enough time of like, was 1 year enough? Is 2 years enough? Is 2 years not enough? And that's why they added the third year, and it's like an optional. I mean, obviously it's all optional, but like, I think it's interesting that they added that. And it'll be good. I think 2 years is tough to show everything you've got, especially because there's fewer races in F1 Academy calendar. And unfortunately, like there's so much luck that goes into this sport. Like you kind of have to get a little lucky sometimes. As much as there is effort and skill and talent, I think a little bit is luck too, and you can get unlucky. So I think adding another year to the F1 Academy tenure is like not a bad thing, but it's like the point of it is to get these young women into other racing series where they can race alongside their peers of whatever other gender. And like I think that's the point. So I think it shouldn't keep, I don't know. I don't know that it makes sense or is the wisest to keep adding years on, but I understand adding one more year to kind of like give these young women a chance to show their ability a little more. I don't know. But yeah, that is the news that I have for you. That is the Bahrain round 1 testing. We will have more testing to recap. I want to go dig into who has penalty points and how many. I think it was Ollie Behrman randomly had like 11 points by the end of the season or something. He like had a lot. So I need to check up on that, check up on how many Liam Lawson has, because that guy's racking them up. They're also expiring, but like he was coming for people. So there's the recap. We'll chat more about more Bahrain next week. And then what? Let me look at a calendar. Melbourne is like so soon. Oh, yep. So we have Bahrain again this week. There's no Oh, shoot. And then on the 27th of February, Drive to Survive comes out. I keep forgetting about the whole Christian Horner situation that happened last season, and we will get to relive it. So we'll have to recap Drive to Survive. I'm going to have to sit down and just binge it. I'm going to be just glued to my TV screen. So we have Bahrain this week coming up. We have Drive to Survive the following. And then March, we have. Is it really Melbourne already? Hold, please. We are checking. I say that at work all the time when people ask me to review something for them. I'll be like, I am checking. And no one knows I'm making a Ferrari reference, but I know I'm making a Ferrari reference. Yeah, do with that what you will. Yep, March 6th to 8th. We'll have. Wow. It's so soon. Hope everybody's getting buckled up, getting all their gear nice and pressed and ready to go. But yeah, we'll have more Bahrain recaps for you. We'll have to see, how everything shakes out leading up to the season and what Drive to Survive has in store. Because those people are mic'd up all the time, I'm sure they have some good stuff. But yeah, me, myself, and I'm sure Liv will be on next week. But that's all for this week. And we'll be recapping Bahrain round 2 before you know it. So without further ado, bye.